The Trump administration has quietly brought back its practice of separating immigrant children from their families at the border, according to a new report by ProPublica. The report outlines a practice of using vague or unsubstantiated allegations of wrongdoing as grounds for taking children into custody. In one case, a father reportedly had his 4-year-old son taken from his arms by a Customs and Border Protection agent after crossing the border and asking for asylum. The news comes after a 60 Minutes report that found the separations began earlier and were greater in number than the government admitted. 60 Minutes also obtained Department of Homeland Security documents detailing how one border station made no effort to identify and reunite families prior to removing them from the country. Joining me now is the Deputy Director of the ACLU Immigrants Rights Project, Lee Gelernt. He is currently suing the Trump administration over its practice of separating immigrant families at the border. Lee, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
For being with us this evening. So, for our viewers that did not see the 60 Minutes piece, what did the Trump administration tell the ACLU was its responsibility when it came to reuniting these families?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it said the practice of separating families wasn't unlawful, and they wanted to continue doing it. We had to be in court. We fought. Finally, a judge said, no, this is brutal, offensive, and unconstitutional. Put an end to it. And notably, President Trump backed down in front of the pressure from both Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives. But then we came to the point where the judge said, okay, reunite the families. We had to fight with the government every single day to reunite these families. And at one point, the government even said, well, we've deported about 400 parents without their children. We don't know where they are. We just know what country we deported them. If you want to find them, you find them. The judge said, no. The ACLU and its partners will help find these parents, but you do not get relief from the responsibility of the mess you created.
So where does that stand now? Is it still the responsibility of the ACLU to find the families put together these families?
We finally forced the government to give us phone numbers and some addresses. We've been working with our partners to find them. We have found just about all the parents. But one thing we don't know is whether there are additional families that were separated that we just don't know about. Reports are coming out that maybe we didn't hear about everyone. And so that's troubling.
Right. There was information in this 60 Minutes report that you had not yet known, correct?
Right.
And so what is the ACLU able to do with some of this information?
I think we are going to keep digging. That's all we can do with the help of the media and other groups. And we will continue to go back to court and ask for an accounting of every family that's separated. The one thing we cannot do is stop looking for any child that may be orphaned because of this policy.
Right. So, I mean, it was our understanding, it was the country's understanding that the zero tolerance policy had been terminated.
Right.
So the report is showing that that's not the case.
The ProPublica report.
Right. So what is the next step?
Yeah, I think vigilance, you know, and what we're hearing now is that they're not calling it sort of separation just because they want to separate. So they're giving it different as well. We're separating because the parent may have some criminal history. But what we're seeing is there's no substantiation for that criminal history, or the criminal history is so minor that it would never justify taking a little child from their parents.
Right.
And so that may be now the next round in this is looking at the ways the government is going to try and use pretext to try and take kids away from their parents.
Right. Now, you are also working on the asylum case.
Right.
The administration is looking to ban any migrants' ability to apply for asylum at the border. Is that correct? If you've crossed
Between ports of entry,
between
exactly.
ports of entry. So what work have you been doing?
Right. So that's a case I argued a few days ago in San Francisco, and the federal judge found that it was blatantly unlawful because Congress had made the decision that you have to be able to apply for asylum regardless of where you come. Not everyone's going to know exactly where to come. And so the judge said, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order. We thought we were going forward for more proceedings in the district court. Last night, the government appealed and is asking for an emergency stay from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. And, based on what we're hearing out of the administration, if they don't get the stay from the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, we could see them go to the Supreme Court to ask for a stay of that ruling.
You could. Wow. All right. So I also want to ask you about the Associated Press that's reporting that this tent city in I think it's Tornillo, Texas, where they
Right.
have a lot of minor
Right.
migrant children from
Right.
the ages of 13 to 17, that a lot of the employees working there were apparently not given accurate background checks, fingerprint checks. They don't have enough mental health workers in these facilities. Is there anything that the ACLU can do about that?
Well, I think we've always been concerned about the conditions in detention centers for immigrants, especially for children. And I think we will continue to look at these 10 cities and investigate and find out what we can, especially because the administration is threatening to put up more and more, and there's more kids ending up in detention. And what's happening is that the kids are languishing in detention for longer periods because the administration is taking so long to do fingerprinting checks, and they're adding all these unnecessary fingerprint checks. They're also going after the adults who would want to take these children, so people aren't coming forward. So we just have a situation where people are deterred from coming to take the kids. The kids just languish there and are going to end up in 10 cities. So we don't want them to be in 10 cities, but if they are, we will investigate the conditions there.
So you work in immigration law. Have you
Right.
ever seen it so complicated and convoluted as it is right now? Are we in dire need of immigration law reform?
Yeah, I think we are. I've been doing this at the ACLU for more than 25 years. And the family separation practice, as I've said before, was the worst thing I have seen in 25 plus years. But it's just a constant onslaught, attempting to dehumanize the immigrant population, making them scapegoats. We really need to stop that. I hope we can get a fair process for asylum and other types of immigration relief and enact some kind of comprehensive immigration reform that restores some order to our process.
And Lee, what do you see, though, as the big picture? What needs to happen? Does it have to be part of a comprehensive Latin American policy? I mean, immigration reform seems to start at the border for the administration right now, but shouldn't it start at the root? Shouldn't it look further and see why this migrant crisis is happening?
I think you're right to ask about that. I think experts point out that we should be doing more in some countries because you don't want conditions to get so bad in those countries, so dangerous, that people have no choice but to leave.
Right. Lee Gelernt of the ACLU Immigrants Rights Project, thank you so much for coming
Thank
to
you for
talk
having
to
me.
us.